The wife of an atheist, even though she wants to be loved, even though she wants to be valued, she has no right to expect it from the husband. Why? Because who said the husband of an atheist should do that? Surely you can't say that it's evolution, you must just understand. No, that's not how human beings work. Human beings learn. You see, if you were to take a child who was never, who's not raised by human beings and give the child to be raised by dogs, that child is going to behave like a dog. Why? Because human beings, even though they might have the mechanical capacities of doing what other human beings do, they still have to, they need these mechanical capacities in terms of the brain, the eyes, and everything to be developed so they could do what they're supposed to do. Without development and teaching and learning, the human being cannot be human. So you cannot say that it is through evolution that the atheists will be able to understand that the husband is supposed to love the wife and protect the wife. There is no such a teaching. They don't have such doctrine. That doctrine comes from the Bible. In the Bible says that the man, the husband, must love his wife like his own skin. That means everything that the husband does for himself. If the husband has done so much, has done so many good things in terms of being a president, in terms of being a politician who has achieved so much for his country, and he wants to build a statue of himself, he must also make a statue of his wife, who was at home raising his children. You see? So this thing that the woman is below the man or the man is above the woman is not biblical. The woman in the Christian religion, in the Christian teaching, is commanded to respect the husband and submit to him. Now, if an atheist husband wants respect and submission and to be the leader of the house, he has no right to expect it. Why? Because who said they must do that? Do you see? Do you see the error there? Do you see the error of atheism? So, like I say, atheists are able to say all these things that they say because they're still in a society that somehow will still submit to the law of God. If they were to be given their own ideal country in which it is atheistic, they would be running away from those countries themselves, even though it is a country that they really wanted, because there will be no order, there will be chaos. You say so everything that an atheistic wife expects from a husband, these are the things that God has given. Respect, that's what God has given. This oneness of a man and a husband in which they do everything together, if they have the same goal, it is what the Bible teaches. It was Adam said when he said, Eve is flesh of his flesh, bone of his bone. She shall be called woman because she came out of a man. This is what the Bible teaches. Atheism has no knowledge except assumptions, assumptions and theories that there was an explosion thousands or billions of years ago, which they never saw, and teaches that as if it's truth. And then they have to base everything that they're going to teach about family, about what a man is, about what a woman. Remember, a man is not an anatomy of parts, of a penis and testicles and all. That's not a man. That's what makes up a male. But a man is more of a character than those things. So atheists will not have what the definition of a man is in terms of character. Without they can only talk about the anatomy. And of course, the anatomy does contribute towards the character in terms of feminine and masculine. But a man is not just masculine because he makes testosterone in his body. There's this thing which is not tangible, which is in the character, in the way that he acts, that makes him masculine. Because masculine does not necessarily mean muscle. Masculine means the one who takes the initiative and acts. And then feminine is the one, it means that the one who actually just absorb and submit. You see, that's a character which has nothing to do with having muscles or not having muscles. But without the teachings of the Bible, because when we look at the Bible, God is masculine. Not that he has muscles, You see, it's because he's the one who does all the work, the one who initiates and starts things. And all the creatures, the whole of creation, absorb and submit to that. Even though in creation you still have masculine beings like angels and men. You see, so it's not about anatomy, it's about character, the very makeup of a person which will be in the soul. But an atheist does not believe in the soul. So in a marriage of an atheist, people who are atheistic, the wife and the husband, there's nothing good to be expected because everything that is good in a marriage, respect, love, and cherished, an atheist cannot say that he learned this from rocks or he learned this from monkeys because the monkeys don't marry. They're animals, and atheists are telling you that that's where human beings come from. So if a man just goes around sleeping with women and leaving them, he's not wrong. Why? Because that's what the monkeys do. But according to the teachings of the Bible, according to the teachings of Christianity, if a man goes around sleeping with women and leaving them, he's wrong. Why? Because that's not what God wants human beings to do to one another. So the reason why atheist debates even hold water for a while in that few minutes is because the arguments are about creation. The arguments are about whether God is right or wrong in judging the nations and destroying them and killing them. That's what makes even an argument. But if you were to take the rationality of atheism in terms of its application in a society, atheism does not hold any water whatsoever. You would have to be very stubborn, a stubborn person like an animal, to believe that atheism can hold water in terms of its application outside of the law of God. That's why atheism holds water. That's why my arguments are not based on whether the universe came into being by an explosion, whether the earth is 1 billion years old or it's a few thousand years old. My arguments are based upon the application of what the Bible teaches, an application of what religions teach, and the application of what atheists can teach. Because atheism has not really taught anything. They have no doctrine which can hold up a family. Because in atheism, there cannot even be a marriage. Because marriage was created by God. By the creation of a companion for a man, God created marriage. But the animals don't really have companions. You can have a few animals who have companions, like probably doves. But the rest of the animal kingdom, you sleep with whoever you want, you produce offspring, and then you move on to the next one. Whoever has enough muscle can get to mate. If you don't have muscles, you can't mate. That's what animals do. But we don't do that. It's about love. And when you love, you marry. And you have children. And those children are raised in an organized manner, in which culture is transferred from generation to generation through the teachings that the children get from their parents. So atheism can't even claim a marriage, because if you're atheist, you believe in evolution. Marriage did not come from evolution. You see, so in an ideal atheistic marriage and a Christian marriage, every good thing that the atheistic couple expects in a marriage, in terms of happiness, in terms of respect, is what God has said must happen. Outside of that, there's nothing to be expected whatsoever. Even the sex itself, in terms of if the man desires the wife, once over and over again, that the man wants to have sex with the wife over and over again, or the wife wants to have sex with the man over and over again. In an atheistic marriage, you're not supposed to, because in the animal kingdom, which of course the atheists believe that we come from, you have to keep chasing. If you're a female, the male, you have to keep chasing the female. If the female doesn't want to mate, there's nothing that you can do. But in the Bible, Paul says that the woman's body belongs to the man, and the man's body belongs to the woman. Meaning that according to the teachings of Christianity, a woman cannot deny her husband's sex. This is not to say that the man must force himself onto the woman. You see, it means that if the woman, does not want to have sex with her husband, she must give reasonable reason in terms of sickness, in terms of, that time of the month for the woman, and other reasonable reasons. She cannot just say no, she doesn't feel like it. You understand? That's what the Bible teaches. But that Bible does not say that man must force themselves. But what the Bible says is that there must be reasonable reason. And even when a man wants to fast, or if a woman wants to fast for whatever the reason, to have greater connection with God through the Spirit, they must discuss and say, you know what, in the next 2 weeks I want to fast. I don't want to have sex. I want to sanctify myself for the Lord. And then the woman must agree. If the woman cannot agree, the man is not supposed to go on with his fast. That's what the Bible teaches. Even in the Old Testament, you were not supposed to go to work for 12 straight months after having married so that you can please your wife. The Bible teaches that you're supposed to please your wife for at least a year before you can even go back to work. That's what it is. That's what the law of Moses teaches. So all these things that men and women expect in a marriage, in terms of happiness, in terms of sexual satisfaction, in terms of the joy of sex, all these things is what the Bible teaches and commands that they must be done, because these are the things that maintain the marriage and keep the marriage together. But in an idle atheistic marriage, you cannot expect such. Why? Because there is no such command. Because if let's say that if I just got married and then I want to go back to work, and then my wife says, no, you can't go back to work now. We just got married. And I said, no, I have to go back to work. She's going to say, but no, we are Christian. God says that you must not go back to work. You're supposed to spend 12 months with me, pleasing me. So she has a base for her argument. Now, an atheistic wife who wants, more time with her husband, because let's say maybe if the husband has enough money, he doesn't have to work for the whole month, and then she wants the husband to stay at home to please her. She tells the husband and say, you cannot go back to work. We just got married. We need to stay together and be happy together. And the husband says, no, I want to work. What reason would she have which she can force the man? Remember, you have to understand that a lot of things that we do, we are forced, either by law or by command. We are forced to pay tax. No one really wants to pay tax. Really, so yes, no one can really work hard and then want to share their money with the government. But because it's a law which you can face arrest for not paying your taxes, then we end up paying it. Just so it could be well with us with the law. So the basis of us paying tax is because we respect and fear the law and submit to the law. So for the Christian, she's able to say, since you're Christian and you submit to the law of God, you cannot leave me here and go to work. You're supposed to spend at least 12 months without going to work. We have the money, we don't need to make more money. So the man, out of submission to the law of God, the same way as the taxpayer, out of submission to the law of his country, pays the tax, and the man does not go to work to please his wife. But the atheist wife does not have anything that she can use against her husband to say, you cannot go back to work, you need to please me. Did you see that? So in an atheistic society, an ideal atheistic society or country or nation, you cannot expect anything good. You can get it if the person wants to give it, but you cannot expect it. But in an ideal Christian society, in an ideal Christian nation, you can expect these things because these people are submissive to the commands and the law of God. And it is the commands of this God that there should be happiness in the marriage, and the man is given a clear instruction on what to do to please her husband. To please his wife. And the wife is also given clear instructions on what she must do to please the husband. She must respect and submit to her husband. And the husband must do everything in his power to make his wife happy. Those are the commands of God. Those are the teachings of Christianity. So if we didn't have false Christianity, which believes that it's about money, but an ideal Christian society in which people completely submit to the will of God, you're going to have happy Christian marriages. But if you have an atheistic society, which is an ideal atheistic society, they can get this happiness if the man just decides by himself that he wants to please his wife. Every woman decides by herself that she wants to please her husband. They can get all these things. But if the decisions are contradictory to what they want, there is nothing to force the other person to do what they're supposed to do. Because there's nothing which they're supposed to do anyway. So, of course, the atheist can argue and say, well, I know in a marriage I'm supposed to do that. The only reason why you know is because you are around Christians and you are allowed, you are around some of the things which are the teachings of Christianity. You see, but if you were to be by yourself, you're going to do exactly what you want. And there will be nothing forcing you. Like I said, people do things because they are forced, because they are commanded to, and because there's some kind of punishment, or because out of loyalty or out of submission, they do what they're supposed to do because of the command. But you don't have any command to love your wife like your own skin. You don't have any command to cherish your wife, to do everything, to serve her, to do everything to make her happy. And she doesn't have any command to respect you and submit to you. So when she doesn't do it, she's not breaking any law. Do you see the error in that? So when you're an atheist and you're a woman, you're a young woman who's atheist, because now you're having even women becoming atheists, and they're proud of that, but they don't understand what they're believing in. And the reason why a young Christian woman would believe that if I have a boyfriend or a husband, she must do this. He must do 1, 2, 3. Is because she's still around the things that God has commanded. So she sort of expects them because the Christians are doing it, because the Muslims are doing it. So she expects that's how a normal man should act. But she doesn't understand that it's only normal because that's what has always been done for centuries and centuries. So it's normal. But if you were to remove all these religions and remove all these laws of God, and you have your own society, it's going to be normal for your husband to spend 90 days away somewhere without even calling, without doing anything, because it's normal. There's no law against what he's doing. It would be normal for a husband to bring another woman in your own house and sleep with her in the other room, because there's no law against that. But in Christianity, that is adultery, and adultery is sin, and sin is punishable by death. The wages of sin is, the wages of sin is death. Do you understand that? So, because I'm trying to establish understanding, I want people to have understanding. I don't want to argue, because discussions and debates about how sometimes Richard Dawkins will mock the Ten Commandments and say that the Ten Commandments basically is just about behavior. But you have to understand that it may be about how people should behave. Yes, you're right. But for a person to behave in a certain way, they have to be told. It's not something that just comes up. Like the example that I've given you about a child who's raised by dogs or animals. Because this child is being told to behave in a certain way, they don't behave in the way that a human being behaves. Because they've never been told. And to be told is not to say that behave like this. It's just that a human being watches and acts like what. So as a human being, the child will look at the dogs and she will do likewise. He's going to walk on all fours because that's what the things around him are doing. But if a child looks at other human beings and they're seeing that the human beings are walking with four limbs, at the beginning the child will always want to walk on 2 legs. But the problem is that the child does not have the strength to balance himself to walk on 2. So he starts with 4, or maybe starts with 5, because when a child will start with both hands and the legs and the stomach, So basically, the goal of the child is to do what the adults are doing. But because of strength in the body, but the body is being developed so that it can be able to do what the adults are doing. So the brain also works the same way, that it gets developed as it gets used. If you understand neuroscience, you understand that new brain cells are created when the brain is being exercised to do something. And when the brain does not do anything, that's when you can have a decline in the strength of the brain because it's not being exercised. So when you're using your brain, you exercise it to do things. So you're growing more brain cells. And then when you eat the right food, also you're growing more brain cells. I'm not a scientist, but I have a little understanding of how some things work. You understand? So the human being has capacity to do certain things, but this capacity has to be developed by being exercised. So it means that if a child gets raised by animals, not human beings, if a child was to be raised by sharks, it's just gonna swim. It will never be able to walk on land. So you can't expect that an atheistic society they will just know these things because of evolution. If evolution was true, then a child would not be walking on four legs because the animals are not a child. A child should just stand up because he's a child of human beings which are walking on four legs. I mean on two legs. Do you see that? So a lot of the things that atheists take for granted, like family, like love, like the way the man must treat the wife, the way the wife must treat the husband, the way the children must be raised, which they take for granted and think that they can just do that if they had their own community or their own society. It's the things which are actually the works of the law of God. You see, but because they've never been given a society which belongs to them, they can never prove such. So they can continue to argue in terms of the cosmos, in terms of how life started. That is just a doctrine which, of course, will create doubts in the minds of men about whether there is or there is no God. And just cause discourse because a lot of people don't want God to be there because a lot of people just want to do what they want. That's why people are raping one another. That's why people are cheating one another. And all these things are against the laws of God. So if it was possible, a thief wouldn't want God to be there. So if there's a doctrine which is teaching people that there is no God, a lot of people, because of their fallen nature, would want that to be true. Because, I mean, if there's no God, that means I can do whatever I want. There's no punishment. If the police can't catch me, then, I've got away with my crimes. I've got away with my sins. That's why a lot of people may be open to atheism. But when you take what atheism is saying, that there is no God, and then you think about it and you apply it and say, okay, if there's no God, that means there's no laws. Because the laws are given by God. And of course they're gonna argue. It's just arguments. Because a lot of atheists will just argue for the sake of argument. Because they were gonna say that no, we were gonna decide what is moral and what is lawful. They said they are gonna decide. But where will that decision come from? Because I've already given you the example about a child who's raised by dogs, that they can't speak, they bark like dogs, they walk like dogs. If evolution was true, what was going to happen is that child must just stand up on two legs because it's supposed to do that because that child was birthed by by human beings. Unless you're going to say that there's a devolution in which if a child does not get raised by human beings, it goes back to the way monkeys used to be before they became human beings, which were walking on four legs. That's how evolution is false. It's proof. Children being raised by animals and behaving like animals, not speaking, not having the same brain capacities as children who are raised by human beings, even though they have a physical brain, proves that evolution is false. Unless, like I said, you can argue and say, for evolution to continue, you need to be raised by human beings. But if this is true, it means that it's not evolution actually, it's teaching. And if it's teaching and development, it means that you can ask yourself, who taught the first human being who transformed from a monkey to a human being? Who taught him? Then that's where you're going to realize that evolution cannot be true. So all these things, all these videos that I'm making, I'm trying to make people understand that evolution may sound clever because the people who are saying it are great people in terms of education and qualification, and they come from prestigious universities. And because a lot of them have done a lot of good work, which is not necessarily about evolution or atheism. They do a lot of work in microbiology, Richard Dawkins, a lot of work in terms of the cosmos, Stephen Hawking, and a lot of work in terms of NASA people and all that. These people have reputations, but you cannot take something to be true just because a reputable person has said it. You have to be able to validate what you believe in. And validation of anything in life must be tested when it is applied in life. That's how you validate anything. You validate religion by applying what is being said in life. Will it hold water? If it doesn't, then it's false. So if evolution, like I say, if you think about how children are raised, who are raised by animals behave like animals, if you take that and apply in life, it doesn't hold water, then it's false. It does not matter what evidence says. You see, if you can take what atheism is saying in terms of they don't need God, and apply it in life, and it does not work, it leads to destruction and chaos, then atheism cannot be used, cannot be accepted as a real thing. It's irrational because it fails when it be tested with real life. So it becomes like a fallacy. That's what real smart people who use their brains, even intellectually without spiritually, can actually come to that conclusion that evolution cannot be true, or atheism cannot hold water in terms of building a peaceful, loving society. It cannot. You see that? So, in the example of an ideal atheistic family, in which the man is atheistic and the woman is atheistic, and an ideal Christian family in which the man and the woman are Christian, you could see that the atheists are going to fail and they're going to be miserable because a man needs to be told, to be commanded to do something, to be taught. Without teaching, without commands, a man cannot decide by himself. But in the Christian family, you're commanded to love your wife, to protect her, to cherish her. And a woman is commanded to respect that which the husband does for her, submit to that. But in the atheistic family, there is no teaching, there's no command, only relying on evolution. So if your wife has not evolved and she doesn't respect you and you can't make her evolved, there's nothing you can do. The next thing, you cannot divorce. And then you're going to try to find another wife. If she's atheistic, it's going to be the same thing. But if you find a Christian wife who's commanded to love and respect and submit to her husband, she's going to give you all the things you're looking for. But the problem is that she does not believe what you believe. And then you're going to think you can abuse her. You can abuse her love. Because you're going to think that it's because of you. You don't think it's because of her. Because of what she knows and believes in, and submit to what she believes in. If you can understand that, then you can see that atheism cannot hold water. It is completely irrational. It does not matter if the person who is saying it is a professor at Harvard or Cambridge or Yale. It's not about that. It's about applying what you're saying in real life and see whether it holds water. Your qualifications don't play a role in this. Your fame, your reputation does not, no matter how many books you've written, no matter how many people love you, that is thrown out of the window when it comes to the application of atheism. And it's going to fail. So that's all that I have to say about this topic. An idealistic Christian family versus an idealistic atheistic family. Thank you for listening.